In this video, I'm gonna share my top 7 lessons that I've learned in 2020. And what I've done is I really went back into the last year and I thought about all the things that worked, all the things that didn't work, and I took the best lessons and I'm gonna distill it into 7 principles that hopefully you can take inspiration from. Now, diving right into it, one of the most important lessons I've learned is to eliminate distractions and work deeply. So what does that exactly mean? So it's a 2-part lesson, right? So the first part is to remove distractions. So I found that a lot of social media apps that I was using in 2020, like YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, weren't really helping me achieve any of my goals. So a lot of times when we're working, and let me know in the comments if you feel this way, where you might be working on something important and then maybe after 20 minutes you go onto YouTube to watch a video, and then a couple minutes later you go on Instagram, you scroll through your feed a little bit, and then next thing you know, you're on Facebook seeing how other people are doing, right? And even LinkedIn, right? Even LinkedIn is a trap because it's for business professionals, but pretty much the feed works the same way as, let's say, a Facebook feed does, and you just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and none of the information that you see is actually valuable and helps you achieve your goals, or it didn't help me at least. So what I found is that I just kind of removed them out of my life. And at first it's a little scary because you might think like, oh my God, if I don't use Facebook or if I don't use Instagram, then I'm not gonna connect with anybody. And so I did a little experiment where I just kind of just removed the app and deleted them and see what would happen. And what I found is that nothing happens. Nobody really cares, and all the people who are close to me, they are one message away and they can talk to me directly or even on the phone. And so I don't really check social media apps anymore. On Instagram, you can check my Instagram right now. I don't follow anybody because I barely use it. Sometimes I check my DMs. If you guys send me something, I just wanna see what you guys wanna say, but besides that, I don't really use it. Facebook, I still need it for the events and things like that, but I blocked all the feeds, I deleted it from my phone, so it's impossible for me to, scroll infinitely on Facebook because there's no feed on my account. So eliminating those social media apps really helped in my productivity and really just made me a lot happier because I realized I didn't need that stuff. And then when I talk about work deeply, right, which is the second part of the principle, is that, instead of working on a surface level and doing a little bit here, doing a little bit there, and checking this, checking that, why not just dedicate a solid block of time, let's say 4 hours, every day to do something extremely important that if you get done, it'll completely change your life. And so that's what I've been really trying to do, where instead of working in shallow depth, working very deeply on one thing, usually it's just one thing at a time, and trying to really go all in on that. And right now it's making videos and making content for you guys on YouTube. So that's what I've really been trying to do, and hopefully you guys noticed. Second principle I have is to maintain a healthy routine. Now, when you are, let's say, working from home, or if you're an entrepreneur like I am, even if I have a team, people are working remotely, right? So a lot of times my schedule is very flexible, right? So this is a good and bad thing. So I can wake up anytime, I can sleep anytime I want, and basically I can live however I want. The problem with this is that when I didn't have a routine that I followed regularly, sometimes I would wake up early, sometimes I would wake up late, and it just ruined my workflow. It's like very inconsistent. I always have to think about what I'm gonna do for that day, and it's like not routined out. So what I've done in 2020, or the lesson I learned, is that I started implementing these systems in my life where I just stopped having to think about what I should do and just follow my routine, and once in a while I'll tweak my routine to improve it, but for the most part every day is like kind of the same, where like for example, I eat lunch around the same time every day. I have someone come in and cook for me, and I know I'd already told them what meals to cook, so I'm never eating like a hamburger at lunch. I'm always eating like chicken or salmon, something lighter, and then steak at dinner, stuff like that. I wouldn't say my sleep is perfect, but it definitely has got a lot better than it was before, because I started meditating maybe like 30 minutes to an hour every day before I sleep, around let's say 10 or 11, and then after that, I just knock out. So, and even when it comes to the work schedule, knowing what times you have to focus, knowing what times you have to do the administrative work, right? Having that routine every single day helped me quite a bit when it comes to just being more productive overall. And without a routine, if you don't decide how you're gonna spend your time, somebody else is gonna decide for you. So that's why it's important to have a general idea, at least, of how you are spending your time and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Now, this next principle might be surprising for you, and that is focus on joy over money. Now, what I've learned in 2020 is that there are an infinite number of ways to make money, right? For example, I'm doing YouTube right now, and if you know anything about doing YouTube, there's many different ways to make money. There's sponsorships, selling your own products and services. You can do, let's say, coaching, for example, group coaching, sell an online course, promote another person's product, rely on ad revenue, right? So there's many different options you can take. Now, just because you have an option, it doesn't mean you should take it, right? For example, if a person came to me and they want to sponsor, do a sponsored video on my channel, and I didn't believe in their product, but they're paying me a lot of money, I never done it, right? You see on the channel so far, there's no sponsorships. So for me, instead of just looking at how do I make the most amount of money possible, I actually just stray away from that and just focus on joy, right? Like, what is fun? What do I enjoy doing? What would I do if I didn't get paid for it and I would do it for fun anyways? And try to make a business out of that versus thinking about, okay, how do I monetize? How do I extract the amount, the maximum amount of dollars out of somebody to make as much money for me? So when I started focusing on joy, I realized that my content got a lot better. My team became a lot happier working with me, and everything just became more fun. And naturally, you guys start to see it, the subscribers start growing, and and money comes with that later on. But I feel a very important thing is, like, if you're gonna do a business, just know that there's an infinite number of ways to make money. Just because something seems like a great opportunity in the moment, it doesn't mean it's the opportunity for you. Instead, focus on what makes you happy and find a way to make that generate money, because if you're doing what you love and you're making a living doing it, you already won the game, no matter how much money you make or how much money you don't make, right? Next principle that I've learned in 2020 is that I make my decisions for the long term, right? So when I think about making any type of big decisions, I always think about, or even small decisions as well, I think, how is this going to affect me 10 years from now, right? So let me go ahead and unpack that a little bit. So let's start basic, right? So let's say the food that you eat. If you're eating, let's say, a pizza or a hamburger or something unhealthy every day, for me, I think, okay, if I'm eating this every day, how is that going to affect me 10 years later? Am I going to be overweight? Am I going to be unhealthy? Am I going to have low energy, right? And so basically, the decisions that you make today are going to affect you later down the line. So you have to think about how that's going to affect you 10 years later. So now when the foods I eat are relatively clean, and because I know that if I eat clean now and I eat healthy now, not only will I feel good and look good now, but 10 years from now, I'm gonna really appreciate what I did back then, right? And also when it comes to business and doing YouTube and doing these kind of things, I don't really think about like trying to make as much money in the next like 1 or 2 years. I think about, how do I build a career doing something I enjoy 10 years out, right? Will I still be okay doing this and having fun and learning all the skills if I did it for 10 years? And the answer is yes, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. I feel like the lesson that I learned when I was younger was that back then I wasn't thinking too much about what my life would look like 10 years out. So I would just grind really hard and put my head down for 1 year or 2 years, and then I would just think like, okay, I just got to get out to the next level, and the next level, the next level. But I wasn't really thinking about, okay, well, where does this go, right? Is this a treadmill that I keep running on and just reaching that next level, but it doesn't mean anything? So instead of just grinding myself to the bone, I really just thought about, okay, where do I really want to go? What are the things I need to do to get to that 10-year goal? And let's just do that. Forget everything else. Let's just do the thing that we actually want to do. And by thinking in this way, you start straying away from, let's say, like short-term gratification, right? You start realizing like, oh, if you, for example, watch a movie every night, that's like 1 or 2 hours taken away from your day. And 10 years later, you might regret that, because that time might be better spent doing something else, like a passion project or making your dreams a reality, right? So whatever it is that you do, whatever your goals are, I would just recommend, and this is what I recommend for myself and do for myself, think about it 10 years out. How is it gonna affect you 10 years later? Now, the next principle that we got is going to be focus on one thing at a time. Now in 2020, I try to do a lot of different things when it comes to doing YouTube, when I try to like hire different people and work on different projects, when I try to like build a website. I mean, there's a lot of different things I do that I don't really want to get into, but the thing I learned doing all that is that when you try to do too many things at once, you're doing each one of these, not that great, right? Because let's say you have, 100 points in your energy, right? 0 to 100%. If you're dedicating, let's say, 30% doing YouTube, and then 30% doing this thing, and then 30% doing this, and then 10% over here doing this other thing. Well, each one of those things don't have 100% of your effort. So how can you actually become the best at that one thing, right? You're just kind of okay at a lot of different things, but being okay, I feel it's not really that rewarding because nobody watches a video that's just okay, right? They're gonna watch a video that's great, and if it's a really great video, then they're gonna recommend it to their friend, and then it just keeps spreading like that. But if you're, kind of doing YouTube here, doing this here, doing this here, you don't have 100% in that thing. I feel like for me, when I started to spend more time doing YouTube and creating content for you guys, what happened was that by just like going hard at one thing over and over and over, you start making breakthroughs in what you do, right? It's kind of like this, when you talk about the world's fastest runner, I don't know how fast they run, but it's fast, right? So let's say the fastest person who can run, I don't know, like a mile, all right? Well, how much faster is, first place compared to, let's say, 5th place? Or 3rd place, or even 10th place in like the Olympics, for example. And you might find that first place might be only 5% faster than the next guy, or a couple seconds faster than the next guy. And the thing is, because that person is first place, but they're only just marginally better than the 2nd place guy and the 3rd place guy, well, they win first place and they win all the rewards and they take everything, right? While the guy who's in 10th place, nobody even knows their name because 10th place doesn't really get a reward, right? And you can see this in sports and a lot of different things. For example, Usain Bolt, the runner, Michael Jordan, basketball, and you also have Ninja for streaming, right? Streaming Fortnite. So the ones that are most popular really take all the rewards. That's just kind of how the game goes. And even for YouTube, you kind of see like who are the biggest YouTubers. They get a lot of the traffic. Not to say that small YouTubers, they also get some traffic too, but relative, if you're a lot bigger, you just take more of the pie. And so that's what I realized about what I need to do, and that's really just focus on one thing at a time so I can make these breakthroughs to be better and better and better at whatever I choose to do. And that marginal difference makes all the difference, because that marginal difference compounded over time, right? Compound interest, you're just gonna be so much better than everybody else if you just keep doing that one thing. And that actually nicely transitions into the next lesson that I've learned, and that is to focus on your strengths, or focus on my strengths. And I find that, when you are an entrepreneur, right? When you're starting out, you tend to, or for me, I tended to want to do everything, right? I would think like, oh, why would I need to hire someone to do XYZ if I can just do it myself? It will only take like a couple days, right? And then another thing pops up, like let's say taxes, and you're like, oh, why would I hire an accountant when I can just do this myself? And then this thing, editing, oh, it's just like trying to do everything by yourself can get you far if you're talented and you're good at many different things, but you can only get so far because your time is limited, right? If you're spending time doing accounting, who's making the videos? And if you're making the videos, who's making the website, right? So it's like focusing, for me, it's like, I really try to spend more time focusing on my strengths and getting to a base level of all the other things so I understand it enough to hire another person to do the job for me. So for example, I'm not an accounting expert, I'm not a tax expert, but I spent some time learning about my situation and what I need to do so I can find the right accountant to help me file my taxes. Otherwise, I don't know who a good accountant is, right? And I definitely have been burned by bad accountants in the past. Or for example, I have an editor. So, I have an editor who edits all these videos. And in the beginning, when I first started out making videos, I edited everything, I shot everything, wrote everything, I did everything myself. And then I realized, well, if I'm editing videos, who is writing the videos? Who is gonna film the videos? Wow, right? I have to do every single step. So if I'm editing, I can't do another thing. And so that's why I decided to get an editor to free up some time. In a way, if you hire an editor that's just focused on one thing and that's editing, they're gonna be better than me at editing, right? So now, I got someone who's better than me at editing, and I can focus what I'm good at, which is making the content and communication skills and things like this to actually create something that people want to watch, right? And so I'm looking at all the different other parts of my business, and I have multiple people helping me out, and I'm always trying to figure out like, okay, what can I delegate? What can I pass on to another person, give them some more responsibility so I can focus on what my main thing is, right? Because if I keep focusing on, let's say, making content, for example, and I build my business around me where people are helping me with the different parts that I don't necessarily need to do, then, everything just kind of rises up together, right? And, something I've learned about myself is that, there are two kind of skill sets I identified that I feel that I'm pretty good at, and you let me know in the comments if you agree. The first one is communication skills. I think anything with communications, I'm pretty strong at, whether it's B2B sales, cold emailing, making videos, doing presentations, anything where I'm communicating either with writing or especially video and voice or in person, I think I'm very strong at. And the second thing I think I'm good at is making something boring look more interesting, right? So for example, I'm doing sales training a lot of the times for my YouTube channel. And sales is not really that popular of a subject. It's not like people wake up thinking, oh my God, I wanna be a salesperson, that's so cool. A lot of times sales has a negative perception. So I think one of my strengths is taking something like sales and turning it into something that people can be like, oh wow, that's actually pretty cool. And if I focus on those things and I build my business around that, then I think you'll start noticing it in the channel and I can keep going up. Now the seventh strength that we have, and we kind of touched on this already, is that you can't do everything by yourself, right? Like I was just saying, have a team, find the right people to do the job and focus on your strengths, right? And so no matter what it is that you do, whether you work at a company, you're an entrepreneur, just understand that you don't have to do everything by yourself. It's okay to ask for help if you're an employee, right? Or if you are in a hiring position, it's okay to hire another person to help you out, even if you have to sacrifice your profits, because that's how the game goes, right? Because if you're trying to do everything by yourself, you're kind of just self-employed. Because if you try to do everything yourself, you can get far, you can go fast, but you can't go as far as you could have gone if you had people supporting you. So, I mean, that's a really big lesson that I learned, and that's really finding the right people to surround myself with so that together we can, it's, what was the phrase? It's like, all boats rise when the water gets higher. I don't know what it is, but you know what I'm saying. And so with that said, those are gonna be some of my biggest lessons that I've learned in 2020. Let me know in the comments which lesson you found most valuable. And if you enjoyed this kind of video, let me know because I'd be happy to make more. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because I'm gonna be releasing videos every single week. And with that said, my name is Patrick Dang and I am gonna see you in the next one.